Hey everybody, we're back here for another session. This time with I said Deanna Cheatham. I said that's the name I always know you by. Just it's in the stick. But Deanna Ebeling, who is a CISSP and who has a pretty high job title at a financial institution. And I don't want to spoil anything. I'll let her get into all that. But I will also throw out there another former Mount West grad as well. So, Deanna, I will turn it over to you to be able to talk about women in cybersecurity, or your day to day.
Okay, well, thank you for having me today. And yes, I am Deanna Ebeling. I'm an information security analyst. I have been working in financial services for the last 4 years. And I'm excited to share a little bit about what it means to work in information security, what it means to advance yourself through certifications, and a little bit about regulation and some of the frameworks that professionals work under in cybersecurity. So here's a little bit of bio on me. If you'll see here, about 90% of my day-to-day is security operations. Some people may know that to be the Security Operations Center. A lot of organizations that are large have in-house security operations centers. So they're basically like a NOC, a network operations center, where you have several different people that are monitoring the network, looking for threats, responding to incidents, and resolving those incidents. And there's also a component called governance, risk, and compliance. This is a huge part of the drivers behind a security program inside financial services, but also inside government and healthcare industry. And security awareness and education is always something that we're trying to do for not only our employees, but our customers as well. A lot of people may think that cybersecurity or information security is, this person sitting behind a desk and has their hoodie up and hacking all day. I don't think it's been maybe just over a decade, maybe a little bit longer, the information security as a profession has kind of been solidified in education, certification paths, and as an industry all its own. Some of the tenets of CISSP are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And when I think about describing cybersecurity, these two or three things actually give a good umbrella for all the things that are involved for any professional working to defend networks or organizations. So confidentiality, that is basically making sure that the people that have access to data are authorized to have access to data. And that can also be systems, because often in business cases, you'll have systems that are communicating with each other and do not even require an individual to be logged in to access the resources. Integrity, I think of encryption whenever I think of integrity, encryption at rest or encryption in transit, any kind of data that's on the wire or data that's being stored. We want to make sure that there hasn't been any modification to that data, or that someone is not obviously stealing the data, making changes to the data and taking it out of the private space and putting it into the public space. Availability, we can't operate or do business these days without having resources and data and networks and systems. And if we do not have those resources available to us, then businesses stop, customers are not able to use the services that they have either subscribed to or are paying for. And it just is an interrupter. So back to thinking about, the hacker sitting behind their desk with their hoodie up and working all day in that way. I think of the umbrella of different silos of information security as the engineer, the analyst. You have GRC specialists that goes back to the governance, risk, and compliance. Um, Probably over the last 5 years or so, DevSecOps or developer security operations has become a big space. And then you have CISOs or ISOs, so Chief Information Security Officers or just Information Security Officers. And that kind of just levels up for you. If you have an engineer or an analyst, they're kind of the boots on the ground of the program. They may be the defenders, the first responders for any sort of incidents that are being detected. They're going to be making sure that the policies and the procedures that are in place to secure data, to secure systems or the networks are being followed. If there are problems with tools, be it system tools, things that are actually doing the detections, or network tools like scanning services or detection services that are listening on the wire, those sort of things need to be administered. So they're kind of like a systems security administrator, and they're also an educator. So anytime that you're dealing with a customer, or you might be dealing with an internal employee that has questions about how to go about their day to day, if they're submitting emails or if they're submitting documents through the cloud, and they have questions about how do I do this in the most secure way? Or is it okay for me to open this email? Or can I look at this attachment? There's always opportunities to educate anybody that you're working with about how to be more secure in the digital world. Governance, risk, and compliance. This is huge, and because it's the driver for a lot of security programs. And a lot of people also have seen, especially with the elections, election compromise, or the NSA with Edward Snowden, and there's just more information, more media available to the public now to kind of make them aware of how our digital footprint exists in the world, and not just locally amongst our contacts or our business contacts, but also on a global scale, as far as where you're actually retrieving your information, where your credit card number goes whenever you swipe at a point of sale device. And the governance comes from regulation. So each of these industries, be it military, or healthcare, or financial services. These are some of the bigger industries that are highly regulated, and they're regulated on what kind of data they can transmit, how that data should be secured while it's being transmitted, what people have access to that data. And at each level, there is sort of a scope of how secure something needs to be. And so the regulations are laws, and each of those industries must comply with those laws. So the governance is sort of the frameworks. where where the regulation is spelled out to those different industries, and then the compliance is where those things are audited. So in financial services, we go through at least one major audit every quarter. And then we also have an in-house and audit department that is constantly looking at our controls. The controls are the things that we put in place as a part of our security program to meet those regulations and to be in governance. And then DevSecOps, this is good because to me, if you want to be secure out of the gate and not be constantly chasing your tail for vulnerabilities that could be in your network, vulnerabilities that could be in your systems, you have to build with secure code. So the whole premise is sort of idea around DevSecOps is that when you're building applications, be it, for media streaming or for music streaming or for core banking, whatever the business or personal use case might be, that we want those applications to be secure out of the gate. We don't want to have to sort of go back and fix insecurities, after applications are presented to the world for use. So CISOs and ISOs, I kind of consider those the people managers of the whole entire security program. So they would sort of be at the top, the leaders of the program, making decisions about if you have an in-house developing team, how are they meeting those secure codes? If you are answering to an auditor or an auditing body, are you meeting those regulations? Are the governance controls that you have in place successful? They're kind of overseeing and looking at all of the metrics that the whole entire security stack encompasses, and they're making those decisions at a high level. And then down to, a security engineer or a security analyst. So I took several different paths to information security. It wasn't something that came natural to me. Originally started out in transportation, working as a dispatcher for the railroad. And after many years doing that and working lots of long hours, odd hours, never having a weekend off, never having holidays, and then having children, that sort of lifestyle was not going to fit in with being a parent. And I decided to go back to school after I left the railroad and just sort of learning myself away from a 24/7 operation that was the same thing every single day, day in, day out. And I saw people that had worked there 20, 25, or 30 years, and they were still doing the same thing that they had done, 20 years ago when they first started. And I was much too bored. I needed something to keep my interest, but I also needed something that was going to have an impact on the world. I felt like just sitting in the chair doing the same thing over and over again, that my efforts were not that valuable, and I wasn't really doing anything that was important on the grand scale. So I uh, started taking classes at community college. And then I thought that when I transferred to Marshall, they originally put me in the site program, which was, I didn't find out until after my first semester, pretty much for programmers or developers. And I didn't think that I was really cut out for that. I had talked with my advisor after my first semester and kind of told them about my working style and what interested me. and the putting of the puzzle pieces together and solving problems, sitting behind a desk and writing line after line of code wasn't going to be much different than sitting behind a desk and telling trains how to run. So it didn't really interest me. And my advisor had suggested that I look into systems administration or network administration. And that sort of took me down my path of becoming a Microsoft certified engineer. I went through several really long, hard, lengthy courses. At first, not having an IT or technical background, it was really overwhelming to me. Um, I had to study hard and I had to really dig in to learn the concepts and understand, domain administration, understand email administration, and then at the very basic level, understand networking. Once I finished with my Microsoft certifications, I found that I was really lacking in the depth of technical skill and knowledge that I needed about networking. So I went back and took the fast track to CCNA to learn Cisco products, but get a strong foundation in networking. And then as I progressed at Marshall, after I finished those two tracks, I was awarded a scholarship and I went in as trailblazer under the digital forensics program. And that was a whole new world because that introduced me to the security aspects of everything that I had learned about systems administration and network administration. And it kind of brought things full circle for me. These things, be it systems or networks, do not work and do not work as intended if they're not secured. And that has a business impact. And so doing digital forensics, that was really geared towards law enforcement. There was a legal component to it that really opened my eyes to how far behind the United States, at least. But I don't think the United States is alone in this. But those regulations or just the laws surrounding information security, that they really didn't exist and that they're still being formed as we speak, and that the laws have not necessarily caught up with the technology and the rapid pace that technology has grown and advanced. And once I finished digital forensics, I kind of had two choices. I could either go into law enforcement and work for a government agency like the NSA or the CIA, or I could, work for like a police department or a bureau. Um, and that was terrifying to me when I learned what would be involved in performing investigations on digital assets and, procuring that information and for cases, court cases, and a huge backlog of the things that needed, um, assets that needed to be examined for these court cases involved child pornography. And I just knew that that wasn't going to be something that I could do day in and day out. Um, and I had to make a choice to go into the public sector. And that led me to financial services. But financial services may be high on everyone's radar. I know that, we've heard about some recent high profile breaches with the Equifax breach. That was a big one here in the United States. And it was highly publicized. And I think a lot of people learned from that their information isn't as secure as they think it is, even with an agency like that that deals with so much personal information, and also has ties to your financial scores, and what that means to the individual. So I don't look at my role as an analyst for financial services as a siloed type of effort. I really do see that everything that I do, for my organization has a bigger impact in the world, because we do see attacks from Russia, we do see attacks from China, um, and any email campaigns, malicious email campaigns, phishing, they call those phishing campaigns, that I am able to stop at my organization is going to keep that from propagating to other organizations, and that ultimately protects the public at large. So, it may sound cliche, you want to save the world, or you want to, I'm doing this to be the savior, but that really was a part of my decision to go down this career path. I do have children, and knowing that they are born into this digital world, I think it's very important that they understand how to secure it for themselves and for the generations after them. So when I think about the day to day, and knowing that I have those fundamentals of networking and systems administration, along with an understanding of how the law applies to, securing data and securing someone's identity, and what that means to businesses and individuals, I consider myself a knowledge worker. And it's not just having those fundamentals, but it's an entire flow of taking in that information every single morning when I get in, checking email, looking at alerts that might be put out from intelligence agencies that they're seeing, new threats coming from, known threat actors, being able to brief myself on that and then look at that and take that into perspective for how that's going to affect my organization. And I take that intelligence in, but I don't have an understanding of my network, and I don't have an understanding of my systems and how the data flows from the network between the systems, and what that means as far as a business case, like, this banking system over here, this ATM machine over here, is performing a transaction. And at that moment, thousands of points of data are being distributed for that transaction to be successful. If I don't understand those data flows, then I'm not going to understand how to protect them. So I need that knowledge, I need those strong foundations, and I need to have a plan. And that's sort of the role of, the information security officer that I work with, to help determine what the best plan of action is. If there is an incident, or a data leak, or a malicious email that's been identified, or someone transmitted sensitive information that they weren't authorized to transmit, what are the actions that we're going to take to make sure that those things are remedied, and we're able to show that we've done our due diligence to be compliant and meet the regulations, but also protect the customer. And then that's part of the delivery. So once we follow those plans that we have in place and we remediate incidents, then we're able to deliver our services to our customer, and we're able to do that in a secure way. And we are always defending. So, like I said, it's not just about, what's happening with the employees internal, but also what's happening external. And you have to have your eyes on every point, to be a good defender. Here's some things that I thought would be good resources for anyone that wants to dive a little deeper into any any one of those areas of focus, be it a security engineer or an analyst. If you want to focus specifically on the compliance or the regulation, or if you are a developer and you want to learn how to build, secure code, what's involved in that, or if you're interested in being a people manager and working on policies and procedures. These are some good resources. Some of these bodies do offer certifications. SANS does offer GSAC, which is a similar certification to the CISSP. Um, NIST is a governing body, obviously NIST.gov. They have a lot of frameworks that they're probably one of the oldest organizations that have put into place what, secure computing looks like and how to place controls. And those things have been translated from the government sector over to the public sector. So it's a resource that all businesses follow in some way or another in the real world. ISACA is another, they do offer certifications. One of the most sought after certification is an IT auditor or a systems auditor. So that's a little different than maybe an auditor that comes in and wants to make sure that you are checking all the boxes for a specific law or a regulation that's been passed down. That's actually someone that has a high degree of technical expertise and understands what is acceptable use for a system and what isn't. And they are able to examine an organization at all levels as to how their systems communicate. There's data flows that I was sharing with you about, a transaction from an ATM over the network back to a core banking service. They are able to look at each component in that scenario and determine, what's out of bounds and what's acceptable use. The U.S. CERT, that's also another governing agency, but they put out a lot of intelligence. So new or emerging threats that are being seen globally. This isn't just, local to your state or your city. They have eyes on the globe, and so they are able to alert or get information out about emerging threats and let analysts and engineers know that these things are, a potential threat to you and your business. And then I just added Daniel Meisler on there. I'm sure that there, other professionals that have their groups that they like. He is an information security professional, but he keeps a blog and he also does, and I think he does a biweekly and a monthly newsletter. And I have followed him for quite a while, but he has loads of information and I always find it to be sound. I really like, his delivery. I really like his insights to the information that he's sharing in his newsletters. I just think he's pretty smart. So if you're curious about somebody that I follow or that I get good information from, I think that would be one for you to check out. So some of the takeaways, I think that me being a person that did not have any technical background at all, coming into IT in general, much less specializing in security, if I can do it and I can do it later in life, I think anyone can do it. You really do just need to kind of search your heart, figure out what your values are, think about your skills, think about the things that interest you, because the more interested you are in something, the better you're going to be at it. And the more you're going to want to try to improve yourself, or you're going to try to learn as much as you possibly can. And it will also keep you from being bored. If it's systems, then do it. Dig deep and become an expert in it. And if it's networking, do the same. Pick that track, and then, start at the bottom if you have to. If you've already got a good foundation, then push yourself to continue to, find out what it means to be an expert in your field. Because if there's one thing that I have learned, is that there's so many facets to technology today that, and even though I'm in security, and you kind of think, well, you have to know it all if you're going to secure something, and that can get overwhelming. You really do have to have strong foundations in all areas of computing to really understand how to secure them. But you can, nobody can do it alone. So I rely on systems administrators to do my job effectively, and I equally rely on network administrators to do my job effectively. And if I didn't have those individuals, in my group to help me make decisions in a split second, and they weren't experts in their field, then, all the cards come crashing down. So, you just need to find what it is that really inspires you and will keep you interested in being the best at it. And if you have any questions, I am wide open.
Deanna, I think you did a great job. And I want you to know that we still have your blanket in the instructor's station in the classroom.
There you go.
Where, yeah, it's still down there, for students that catch a chill.
Oh yeah, I remember. It's the same way. It's the same way at work. I think it's a method to their madness. If we freeze you out, you're not going to go to sleep. You're going to stay awake and you're going to do your work.
Well, I wanted to ask you one question myself. You're a woman in IT, and that is a unique perspective. And I know a lot of the really large tech companies, Cisco and Microsoft, and a lot of them have special programs trying to promote women in IT. And I just wondered if you feel like that being a woman has impacted your career in IT, either way, positively or negatively.
Yeah, it's done both actually. I think what I have found is that um, I work with mostly men, so and it kind of just depends on the individual. Some of them, I would say the younger ones, they don't have any, um, maybe they don't have any airs, you know what I mean? Like they just accept you as an individual and what you can bring to the team. And they're just willing to solve the problems, whatever they are, and work with you to do it. I will say that in the jobs that I've held, that there's sort of a proving ground where eh, you're not just a pretty face, or you're not just a blonde that doesn't know what they're talking about. And so there's just that time frame of them getting to know you, getting to know your skill set, know what you're really capable of, and then you bringing that to them, and producing it, being accurate about it, not making so many mistakes, or not any not having a, being humble, being willing to learn yourself, learn from them, and also let them know, if you know something that maybe they didn't think about or they didn't consider. And that has worked for me. Having certifications, I think, has helped me get in the door. where I've seen a lot of the men that I work with that they may have years and years of experience in IT, but they don't necessarily have any certifications. And and that seems to be okay. For whatever reason, they're taken at face value for their experience, and they get in and they prove themselves and they work just fine. But I think for me, that would never happen if I didn't have certifications. So I have made that kind of a priority. My husband works in IT, so he's
Yeah, I remember.
yeah, so he's one of those people that has, almost 20 years of experience and doesn't have certifications and all the things that I have certifications in. But we can still sit down and have a conversation and talk the same, speak the same language. But, you know, I don't think anyone else maybe would have given me the chance to do that. But he did. He got the chance to do that. But I mean, he does have a college education too. So it's not like he just showed up one day with his laptop and said, I want to work in IT.
Well, I mean, I've worked in IT for a long time too, and I've worked with a lot of women, and I've never, I certainly hope I didn't give off any kind of vibe like I wouldn't trust them because they were a woman. I think in IT, period, it's just what you said. What do you bring to the table? It's what you know. And very quickly you find out if somebody is just blowing smoke or whether they really know something. And so it's always been, I've worked with minorities and all these. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color you are, what country you came from, what gender you are. It's all just what can you do? What do you know? And certainly at MCTC, I'd say at least half, some maybe more than half of our IT faculty is women. And so, and in classes, when you were in class, I see that the women that actually do choose IT are outstanding. And so they very often put the men to shame,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I'm glad to have them in there.
We just took on a new teammate through an acquisition this past year, and she's a woman, and she was the CISO at the previous institution, and I have absolutely loved it because you're right. I have noticed that too, but I think there's the fear for women. I think there's the fear they won't succeed, or they don't think that they're going to get the concepts, or they're not smart enough or something to understand computing. I don't know. I don't know what the barrier is for women. I have two girls, so and maybe that was it for me too. I'm an only child, and I don't know if my dad wanted a boy at some point, but I kind of grew up doing the things that my dad wanted to do, and tearing down and working on computers, and having computers around was one of those things that we did when I was younger. And he always just kind of let me know, you can't break it. And if you do, you can fix it. So don't fear. And I never did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it might just be, the roots of where someone comes from. I just always, try to say the same thing to my girls. Don't worry about it. If you break it, we'll fix it. It's not the end of the world. And I do that now, even at work, because sometimes I think some of the younger kids that are coming in and, just getting their foot in the door, they have that fear. Like they're, oh, you mean we get to reboot it? Oh no. and, I'm like, yeah, this is routine maintenance. It's okay. If it doesn't come back up, I mean, it's going to be all right. and so I think that's kind of maybe helped me just not being scared and realizing that, and I think that's also helped me if I did break it and then you fix it,
You
what
learn something.
right, what better learning experience do you have than that? And so
Yeah. I mean, I have 3 daughters, but and I wanted them to be interested, but they weren't. I mean, they started using computers as soon as they could crawl up into the chair,
yeah.
but they really have had no interest whatsoever in the field at all. They use them for what they want, and then they just do their own thing. So
You know, I was artistic growing up. I did dance, you know, ballet, tap, jazz, and then I went to school of the arts, and that was all focused on true arts. You know, you had the whole music department, you had the visual arts department, and so that wasn't my interest when I was younger. But now I just translate those interests. um, I love like digital art. So I get into uh, you know, building you know, like coloring digitally and stuff like that with different programs, the Photoshops and all of that. But I use Affinity right now. I'm really into Affinity, and I've got their whole um, suite, and it's really nice. But I don't know what that is. I wasn't interested either when I was younger. I think it took me having some life experience and a job that I come to realize is that a dead end job is as hard as bad as that sounds, because I know a lot of people they maybe glorify the railroad. They say, "Oh, you got a job for life, and that's a great job and awesome benefits." And at what price? Because in 8 years there, I worked every single weekend. For the first year, I had to work midnight shift. I had to do double shifts, 16-hour shifts, uh, whenever they wanted me to, and I didn't have a choice.
yeah,
And every holiday, you know, I didn't have a Christmas or a Thanksgiving with my family in that all that time. So bring children into that, it's not fair. I don't think it's just not fair to
yeah.
your children. And if even if it is a good wage, and I hate to say it, but I was making just about about the same amount of money as I am now. But the price was a big price for me to pay.
Yeah.
Until I realized that, did I kind of search myself and think, what is it really inside me that gets me going? You know, gets my brain going, my juices flowing, that I want to do for 8 or 10 hours a day. What is that? And what does that look like?
Yeah.
And um, going over to Marshall and being in the site program for that first semester was a big eye opener to me, because I was glad to really have an understanding of computing and coding and really how all that works. But then I thought, oh, I can't do this all day. I cannot sit here like this all day. And I admire developers. I really do, because I was sharing with Patrick that that's one of the things that I wished I would have known right before I graduated, because some of the languages that they want Python, it's on everything these days. They really want you to
Yeah.
have Python. And I didn't learn that language. I mean, but I'm not scared though. See, now I think, okay, I can go teach myself Python. If I want that skill, I can go do that. And
It's just syntax, right?
right, it is just another language.
Yeah.
And I do have, you know, the C++, and I did take HTML and CSS, and database, you know, the things, the core languages, and they all are kind of the same, but like you said, just a little different syntax. So once you get, you know, that understanding and you wrap your head around that, it's not hard to learn the other ones.
Yeah.
But developers, I think, have an easier way or to transition into security, you know, because they do have that foundation. Just a lot of attacks and threats boil down to code. So
Yep.
if they know the code, they can kind of unravel things maybe faster than most. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, Cisco's really putting a push on the developer side of things too, because that's actually part of the CCNA now.
Oh,
There's a short section on that. Yeah.
you know,
And there's only one exam.
I know they did smash it into one.
Smashed it into what? That's the best way I've heard it put.
And that's a lot. I mean, that's huge amounts of content. Like that semester with you, I was really overwhelmed. And it may have been too partly just because I was working at the same time, but and so the days were long. You know, I was pulling long hours with work and then having to go
Yeah.
be in class in the evening, and then a family and all of that. So
Yep.
it's tough. You know, I wished I would have known right out of high school what I wanted to do, but it probably wouldn't have been this. Like I wouldn't have maybe made it here if,
Right.
you know, I was like thinking the artsy, let me go be a journalist or something.
Well, you know, I've seen that a lot of people in IT are kind of arts related or musical.
Oh yeah.
I'm a musician, and I've seen a lot of musician and you know that kind of. I think it has something to do with maybe patterns and stuff like that. I'm not sure, but a
Um,
lot of musicians are in IT.
yeah, and my new coworker, she's a math major. And so that to me translates musically and programmatically, like all of that. So I get it. I do get that. I guess I was just
Yeah.
glad I was strong in math, even though maybe I tried to put it away, but I still, let me just say this. I'm still using subnetting. Yeah, like people say, "Oh, you're not ever. You just need to pass the test, learn it to pass the test." No, I mean this is something. If you don't segment your network so that you are secure,
Yeah.
then you're not doing your job. So I do use that every single day. Everything. I mean, even all the stuff that Patrick taught me and the whole Microsoft courses. I, 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 I hate to say this, but some stuff I was just working on DNS scavenging and DHCP leases, and
Yes.
yeah, some of the timing on that. So this is real world. It don't waste your time or your money. I don't know about you, but I paid a lot for I paid a lot for my degree, and my certifications. They're not cheap. Um,
No.
yeah, and don't waste your time or your money because you will use every bit of it. And I've only built on it. Like as I dove into security, it only made me dig deeper into networking, deeper into systems and how they work.
Well, that's good feedback to know.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Every bit of my time with you guys in school was worth it to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Didn't you
great.
also say for the exchange certification?
I did take the exchange as part of my, that was that year that they changed it over for whatever reason to the MCITP. That
Yep.
one year that
Oh,
they did
yeah.
that. Yeah. So that's, I guess, the technical, you know, for my certification, but there was, oh, and that reminds me, I still carry around my Exchange book. I have it in the bookshelf in my work space because I reference it. Yeah, I've had to go in and reference it. And I mean, a majority of stuff is online, and maybe I'm just a bookworm in some ways, but um, I still got dog ears, little sticky notes, different things that I referenced.
Nothing beats a book.
Right, I know.
I just remember that, Scott and I had taught the 2003 stuff. And when the 2003 stuff was out, you needed all 7 classes to get your MCSA and MCSE.
Yeah.
And when Microsoft did switch over to the MCITP just for 2008, because they brought back the MCSE in 2012. But when they did bring that over, we only needed 6 tests to go ahead. And you only needed 6 tests to go ahead and get your MCITP server administrator and MCITP enterprise administrator. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do that 7th test. And so I was looking at a SQL book and an Exchange book. And I said to myself, you know what? Everyone's going to have email. Not everyone's going to have databases. These days it's probably, right on top of each other. But that's why I went to Exchange. And I remember the people who actually sat for that exam because it wasn't needed. What I mean is to get your what's equivalent to an MCSA and MCSE, it wasn't required to go ahead and sit for that. And so you did. And I was like, wow. And so then I know that you had went on to work at Alpha. And then I had another female student who also got was certified in that. And she's now at ATS, and she is the admin of their Exchange administration. So it took me a while. When 2012 came around, I didn't get to teach it for a while, and they got rid of an MCSE. And then I brought back Exchange 2013, and then now I teach Exchange 2016. So next spring, this coming spring, I'll be teaching exam 345, Exchange 2016, even though it won't be an exam anymore because they'll all be dead January.
Well, here's my thought on that. I know they're moving, they're trying to get everybody to move to Office 365. But it's all the same stuff. It's just, not all, there's lots of new stuff to it, but it's still the inner workings of how email flows in an organization and how you have to set that up in the domain. All of those things are the same. So if you don't know it, and you're just not going to get it. And it's a beast, I will say. I think they should just have one Exchange administrator, and that is their only job. Don't do anything else because it is a beast.
Well, I actually had some people who wanted to take the class, and so their boss was like, we don't use Exchange 2016. We use Exchange Online. And I sent them a screenshot of the interface and said, what are you looking at? And they said, well, that's Exchange Online. I said, no, it's not, because I got a little menu down here, a little sub menu. This is servers. So Microsoft in 2013 put it all to the web. They all put it to a web page. So yeah, I explained that it doesn't matter whether you're on-prem or whether you're online. Microsoft's tried to make it look both ways. But I'd rather teach somebody the on-prem side, because if they do decide to fire up their own server, if all of their experience is online, they're not going to know how to do that. So let me teach them more than they possibly need, because that may come in down the road.
Right. Yeah. I'm always learning, and I don't think I'll ever be at the end of the road. Not in IT. And certainly not in security, because there's something new every day. Maybe one day, if everything is, securely developed, we could get to that place, but there's always going to be legacy, and so you're always going to have to, know something that came before, and they don't build things very rarely anymore from scratch. So they're taking modules out of something and building on top of that. So at the end of the day, yeah, you just need to know. I don't know how, I can't stress that enough, I don't think. But I have used every bit of Exchange, all the networking Cisco stuff. I even web develop. I didn't want to be a web developer, but that helps me look at all of the traffic that's going across, the proxies and out to the internet. And what is it actually talking to you? Where is it landing? What is that resource that it's, using on that other server at the end of the World Wide Web? What is that? And if I didn't know those things, then looking at those traffic logs would be Greek, and I would be useless as an employee. They're getting to where they're automating a lot of things, and I think that AI is a big buzzword, especially in the security community. And I get it. Like, I know that they don't have enough. There is a shortage of security professionals, and they're only going to need more because they're putting out more laws, and these organizations are going to have to comply with these laws, and so they to do business. And if they don't, then they're going to be up a creek, and they need the people to help them achieve that. But the AI, I think to myself, and I've heard some people say, don't you think you'll be obsolete at some point? They're just going to be able to program an algorithm to do everything that you do, and there goes your job. And I don't believe that, because they can tune and build algorithms as much as they want, but there's always going to be that one exception to the rule, and it's going to take a human to look at that, see that exception, and put all of those pieces together and say, okay, well, for this business over here, this looks really bad. This looks like, oh, horrible. This should not be happening. This computer should not be talking to this computer. This person should not be logging into this, or whatever the situation is. But for my organization, things are configured this way, and this is not insecure. And you're not going to be able to teach AI those exceptions all the time. So I think I'll be busy for the next few decades.
Job security is good.
Yeah.
Well, Deanna, thank you so much for coming on and doing a talk with us, talking about how, well, I mean, this morning we got to hear about CISO in a governmental, almost educational area. And then we got to talk here now about the same type of thing in the financial area. Mm-hmm. I know you talked to me previously about the fact that when you had gone through Marshall, you didn't want to go the law enforcement angle. So, and a lot of people, I think, end up going that route. And maybe to some degree, they think that's one of the only few routes, because that's the one I think, honestly, people might see the most on TV. But thank you for shedding some light on that.
Yeah, it's vast. It really is. And I want to say those people that do, those are my heroes, because I just know I can't stomach it, but I'm glad they're there, and I'm glad that they are doing it. So thumbs up to you guys that are in law enforcement and doing that for everybody. And thanks for having me, guys. It was good to see you, Scott.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I'm glad you're doing so well.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, thank you so much.